So we are recording the class. My name is Brahmadattan. I'm a professor in the computer science and cybersecurity department. I teach computer science classes. And this is ICS 372, Object-Oriented Design and Implementation. I've been teaching this class since it was started in 2014. I designed the class and have been teaching it regularly, except when I was on sabbatical. So this class will be all on Zoom. It will be synchronous. You have to come to class. So I'll be taking attendance. I will be posting videos and PowerPoint slides and readings ahead of time. I have posted quite a bit of material over there because I have material from previous semesters anyway. I might update a few things here and there because I keep modifying the course, thinking that it is improving. Okay, and I think it is improving. And this semester will be no exception. So we are meeting in the afternoons 1 to 4:20. No face-to-face meetings. Okay, I will be taking attendance later today, but I want to wait until until as many students as possible join. So I'm not going to do it right away. I'm going to go through the syllabus. Then in the course of doing that, I will be talking about some expectations and other matters. And then we will be doing what is called a class exercise. I will be also giving you a few minutes of lecture on classes and related matters, but nothing extensive because I assume that all of you have a fresh memory of classes and objects and programming with them. You have done ICS 141 and ICS 240, and hopefully those concepts are still fresh in your mind. You will be refreshing those things in the first couple of weeks. So you have about 2 weeks to catch up on those concepts. Any rustiness can be taken out through those 2 weeks of study and review. Okay, there may be some gaps that need to be filled, and you will start seeing really new material starting the 3rd week. Okay, any questions before we start on the syllabus?
We got a question.
Yeah.
What did you study for your Master's of Science and your doctorate?
Where
No, what? I'm sorry. Like, what was your focus?
Okay, my first introduction to computer science was in India. At that time, there were no bachelor's degree in computer science in India at that time. I did my bachelor's in engineering, electronics and communication engineering, and I did my master's in computer science, which was very elementary at that time. I mean, the field was far less developed, and the kinds of things you taught at the graduate level were very elementary. Anyway, it was my first introduction to computer science. I did 2 years of studied a number of aspects of computer science actually, and some things related like operations research and numerical methods and all that. And after that, I worked for 5 years in the industry, or 6 years actually. I did projects all over the world, and then I did my master's in computer science and a PhD at the University of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. And my focus was the database systems and distributed systems. I continued to work mostly in distributed systems after my PhD, and then got interested in object-oriented systems because they were getting developed. And I learned, I taught, I did research, and then this became my major interest. And and almost everything that I teach these days, I never learned in school. That is going to be the case for you guys too. I mean, the kinds of things you'll be practicing, you wouldn't, in the future, many of those things you wouldn't have learned here, but you learn the fundamentals that prepare you for learning new things. That is what happened to me. I feel that I got a very thorough understanding of the basics of computer science, and that knowledge helps me learn new things. Any other questions before we go further? Okay, let's open up the syllabus. So the syllabus can be found under content. And if you go to the folder syllabus, you will find it. All right. I'm going to share that syllabus in a minute. I'm hoping that you can see the syllabus. Can you?
We can see it.
Okay. Yeah. Some of the things are so, I mean, they're very routine things, so I'm not going to spend much time on those. And there are two Zoom meetings. One is office hours, and the other one is for class meetings. So they are different. Don't mix them up. Scrolling down. The prerequisites for this class are Math 215 and ICS 240. You should have both to be successful in this course. And we will be studying object-oriented design and implementation. As I said a few minutes ago, the first 2 weeks will be mostly, I wouldn't say 100%, but mostly review of those concepts. And I feel that many of you would see new concepts. Okay. You will also be using some tools that I don't think many of you would have used before. I mean, no, I don't want to say, I won't say tools. I would say some aspects of tools. All right. So it wouldn't be, I mean, I'm pretty sure all of you have used Eclipse, but some aspects of Eclipse you may not have used. And those we will do in the first couple of weeks. Okay. And after that, 3rd week onwards, almost everything will be new material. I mean, they might remind you of things you have learned, but 95% of almost every lecture starting the 3rd week would be new. If you have seen some of those before, that's great, but I'm not expecting that you have seen any of those things in your previous classes. And then we will have 3 exams, and the topics would be a combination of theory and practice. I think I'm bragging. It may sound like that I am bragging, but the kinds of things you learn in this course, the topics you learn in this course would be applicable immediately to things you most probably practice in the field after graduation or even before graduation. In the, what was it? Actually, I think it was in the spring semester, I had a student who went to an interview for an internship, and he wrote back. I was thinking of sharing that email, without, suppressing the student's name. And he said, everything they asked was related to this particular course, the things that he learned in this course, and he was very happy about that. So I was very pleased to read that, actually, right? So you must pay a lot of attention to almost every topic that we learn in this course. It will be, as I said, theory and practice. Some of the theory is very hard, and you will also have exposure to, some of the best design approaches in computer science, especially using the object-oriented paradigm. And I think this would be very, very valuable knowledge. Okay. Now, one of the, this student course outcomes, there is one outcome that we will not be spending much time on. I had asked the chair to remove it from this, and we agreed that it would be removed, but it hasn't yet materialized. So I'm not going to be focusing on this particular one. I don't want you to be thinking that, there will be some reference to this, but this is not one of my biggest focus. Use principles of agile methodology by following the unified process. You will be spending more time on this in the capstone project. We don't have time to accommodate everything. So I'm not going to sacrifice the design aspects for the sake of some practice, like the unified process and all that. Okay, the textbook is one that I co-authored, and I will be providing you, and I have actually provided you more recent versions of some of the chapters, but not everything that you see in the D12 site is sufficient. You will need to read some parts of the textbook for sure, a good part of the textbook, actually. We are writing the third edition, and it doesn't seem to finish. We are still trying to make it as nice as possible. This is very programming intensive. In fact, most of the, I wouldn't say, 80% of the stuff that you learn here would all be learned through class projects and group projects, which would involve lots of design and implementation. So it wouldn't be the case that you just learn concepts by reading. You'll be practicing a lot. So expect to spend a lot of time on programming. I'm posting online lectures, the PowerPoint slides, reading materials, and videos. You are asked to watch the videos, look at the PowerPoint slides, do the readings before coming to class. In the classroom, lectures would be limited to, or will be focused on, the most important aspects. I will also spend time answering questions, discussing things that are more difficult. But the bulk of the material has to be learned before coming to class. So the first 30, 40, 50 minutes, I don't know, it depends on the week, will be devoted to reviewing the topics for that week, spending time on the more difficult aspects, and answering questions. This will be followed by a class exercise, which will involve a number of problems. Many of them would be multiple choice or true false kind of questions, but there might be some programming questions or concept questions, and you will be divided into groups of 3 or 4 students, maybe 5, 3, 4, 5 students. I mean, I don't know, 3 to 5, most probably. And you will have to have your webcam on and audio on, and each group will be in a separate breakout room, and the groups will be randomly assigned. I will use Zoom to assign the groups. And the first 4 weeks or so would be used, should also be used for you to get to know other students in the class. As you are meeting and doing the problems in the class exercise, see whether your group mates are the ones you would like to work with in a group project. Okay. In around week 4, 5, 6, around 6 for sure, I'll be, by week 6 for sure, I'll be forming groups. There are 2 group projects, and I use a combination of 2 approaches. Students can decide whom they want to work with, and if a student doesn't have any particular preference, I put them into some group. So if you have specific preferences, I would allow that. I mean, if you find that you are liking to work with 3 or 4 other students, then they agree, you can form a group and work together. But if you don't have any specific preferences, if you don't know enough people, then we will just be assigning you to somebody at random. Okay, so it is going to be a combination of the 2. One might say, why not use the same technique for everybody, just assign groups randomly. I mean, there is merit to that viewpoint, but I don't do that. The reason being, if there is if 4 or 5 students want to work together, it also means that they have times that are very suitable for them to meet and so on. So I don't want to deprive them of that privilege. And they have taken the trouble to know each other, and that would be something else that I want to consider. Okay. And it has worked well in the past. Of course, there are disagreements within the group, and sometimes, and usually it is when the groups are randomly formed that there are problems. In fact, I think there are problems there is a problem with a group or two every semester. So, and that happens when they don't know each other previously, and then they see that their work habits are not aligned all that well. So actually, I digressed a little bit from lectures. So lectures, as I said, would be anywhere from 30-40 minutes to an hour, and it will be used for highlighting the big issues, big topics, the difficult topics, and discussing any things that are not clear. There is no point in spending time on easy things during that time. You are expected to watch the videos, do the readings, everything before coming to class. And the class exercise involves a number of problems, as I said before. Assignments, there are 3 individual assignments. They will be done in the first 3-4 weeks. So tonight I am giving you an assignment. I couldn't give you an easier assignment, but there is one aspect of it that might actually be very messy for some of you. It is not the Java code that is going to be difficult. It is actually creating the project itself. We will get to that a little later. Okay. I will try to do a demo, because that is going to be the biggest difficult aspect of the first couple of weeks. So I'm going to spend some time on it, on that difficult aspect, after we finish the syllabus. I will probably not spend a lot of time on things that you already know, like classes and objects and methods and fields and constructors. Those you know. Spending another 15 minutes on them or to 30 minutes on them will not make much difference. So let me try to make the best use of time here, focusing on things that are going to be more difficult for you. Before coming to class, you must answer a quiz. So this is what this is 25th. I think the next class is on the 1st of September, and it will be at 1 o'clock. So next Thursday before 1 p.m., you are supposed to take a quiz for the material to be learned in the second week. And for most quizzes, almost every quiz, I would like to say, unless I made a mistake in the settings of the quiz, you will get 2 chances to answer the quiz. But you will not get a second chance unless the score for the first attempt is 50% or more. So you cannot simply take the first, you cannot simply attempt the quiz without any knowledge of the material. Then you will probably get a score that is less than 50%, and you will not be offered a second chance. Then there are 3 exams in weeks 5, 10, and 15. Okay. And you should have your video on, audio muted during the exams. I mentioned the group projects earlier. There are 2 group projects. We will start them earnestly in week 6. I might form the teams before, let's see how things go. But we definitely would start the projects after the first exam. And you are required to evaluate yourself and your classmates. This is something the department imposed on every course that has a group project, because there have been complaints about inequity among the grades for students in a group. So you must evaluate yourself and your teammates. Okay, and that will be used in the computation of grade for individual students in a group. Okay, maybe I should pause for a second and ask if there are questions.
I've got the second edition, 2015 edition of the book. And
Yeah,
the
those
syllabus
one, that's fine.
okay.
Yeah, anything is, I mean, the big changes I will be providing in the reading section. I may update the stuff that I have put in the reading section of the D12 site. As we write later versions of some of these chapters, I will put those, I will update those documents on the D12 site. Whether it is group projects or individual assignments, I am a stickler for documentation and style. So there is a document on coding standards on D12 site. Please use that. I mean, please make sure that you follow the coding standards given in that document. Otherwise, you will unnecessarily lose points for documentation and improper coding style. Okay. Now, probably the biggest concern that students have when they take a course is, how would I be graded? And let's talk about that now. Here are the various categories in the first column. Let's look at assignments. These are, when I say assignments here, I mean individual assignments. There are 3 of them, 3, and each one is worth 50 points for a total of 150. And you are expected to score at least 90 points. You need to score at least 90 out of 150. There are 2 group projects, 100 points each for a total of 200. As I said before, or maybe I didn't say this before, I try to assign the same grade to every student in a group. But if there are issues within a group, either reported informally through discussions with students, or more formally through the evaluations that you need to fill out, those grades will be adjusted. In fact, I adjusted the grades of a couple of students. I think it was in spring. Yeah. Then there are class exercises, except in weeks 5, 10, and 15, because we have exams then. So there are 12 class exercises. Each is worth 20 points for a total of 240. You need to get 150 points. So look at the minimum points required for each category. Then you need to take a quiz before coming to class, except when we have an exam that week. So weeks 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14. There are 11 of them. you have a total of 110, and you need to score 60 points here. 3 exams, 300 points, you need to score 50% of the exams. And to get a C minus, you need to make at least 680 points. Now, what are these minimum points for? Well, here is your answer. Here is the answer. If you do not obtain 150 points for the 3 exams, or don't make 120 points for the group projects, or do not meet the minimum in the other 3, then your grade will be no higher than a C minus. Okay. If your total points for one or more of the categories is, that is the second item here. If you don't meet the minimum in any one category or multiple categories, then your grade will be a shade below what you would have received otherwise. Of course, if you don't get minimum in the group projects or the exams, the grade will not be higher than a C minus, no matter what. And assuming that you meet the minimum points for every category, this would be the grade you get based on this table. Okay. Questions? Okay. Late submissions of assignments and group projects, you can delay them by 3 days, up to 3 days. And after that, I will not accept the assignments. Okay, now something very complicated, and I am not sure that I can explain this completely, but you will learn what I mean by this. There is some allowance for missed work. How? All right, let me give you some examples. An assignment is due next week. It is due actually on the Friday. I make them due on a Friday so that you can ask last minute questions in class on Thursday. So the first programming assignment, individual programming assignment, is due by 11:59 p.m. on September 2nd. And suppose for whatever reason, you are not able to complete that assignment and submit it on that day. And or let's assume that you made a mistake in submission, that you submitted an empty file or something like that, that happens. It has happened many times, actually. Students submit something and it is all garbage. They didn't, they zipped the wrong things or whatever. That has happened many times. Fewer in the last few semesters than before, but it does happen from time to time. So if you make some mistakes, if you are delayed, whatever, those kinds of things, then you can use an excuse. There are 4 possible excuses, or I call them allowances too. So there is 4 in your bank. I think I updated the D12 sheet to say that everybody has 4 allowances, or maybe I haven't. I will do it if I haven't already done so. And you can use an allowance to avoid a penalty by 1 day. So if you couldn't submit things on the due date, then you can say, I would like to use one of my allowances, because the penalty for late submission is 10% per day. So if you were to get full points on an assignment, you would lose 5 points for a 50-point assignment, because the assignment is worth 50 points. If you are delayed by a day, you will lose 5 points. So instead of losing 5 points, you can lose you can use one of those allowances and not be penalized. Or if you are delayed by 2 days, you could use 2 allowances and then still not be penalized. All right. But there are only 4 allowances total for a student. And that would be something you might want to consider. It is your decision whether you want to use an allowance or not. And it is my decision whether I should allow you to use those allowances or not. If I have already published the answer to something, for example, you missed a before lecture quiz. You're supposed to take one before 1 p.m. next Thursday. If you don't do it and want to take that quiz maybe after class or the next day, I will allow it if I haven't already published the answers. So I will be the judge of whether you should be allowed that. Typically, I allow it. So it is not that I use this in a negative way, this clause in a negative way. All right. But there are only 4 allowances for the entire semester. I mean, many students don't use any allowance, any of those allowances, and then I simply add the number of allowances to their total score at the end. Of course, it's not going to make a serious difference. If you have 3 allowances left, I will add 3 to your total score. It may not change your score, your grade, or it might in very, very rare cases. Most likely, if you are, most likely you would be better off using those allowances rather than not using them. Of course, I hope you don't get into a situation where you have to use an allowance, but many students need to, or some students sometimes have issues like one student, for example, had to take somebody to an emergency room once, and then she asked me to use one of her allowances for taking the class exercise, which is for 20 points. And okay, exams should be taken as scheduled, and you should have your video camera on and audio off. By the way, these allowances cannot be used for doing things like saying, okay, I didn't submit the first assignment and then I would like to submit it. I mean, in the middle of the semester, you say that. That's no way. Or resubmitting an assignment that has a poor score. I'm not going to regrade an assignment, or redoing an exam, or redoing a quiz, and so on. Okay. All right. I'm pretty bad with dates. I try to pay attention, but I do mess up with dates. But I hope I haven't this time. But I wouldn't bet on it. Here are the due dates and the topics covered for the 15 meetings. Okay, you can go through those. And after this, it's all boilerplate language. I'm not going to go through any of this, right? Any questions? Okay. Let me stop this share then. I'm going to spend some time on things that are probably unique to this course with respect to some expectations, and also some topics that might be very difficult. They're not difficult, but it is messy and it is easy to make mistakes. So I'm going to do those things now. I'm not, unless there is a lot of time left, I'm not going to spend any time on object-oriented concepts that you already know. Okay. All right. Let me bring up some aspects related to Java coding, because that is a place where students unnecessarily lose points for no reason. Okay, easy points that add up and hurt people. All right, here, let me show you the D12 site. If you look at the D12 side, you'll see on the left side assignments, and here is the first assignment handout. It is not that I am talking about. I'm actually talking about some of these other things. Okay. First one is coding standards. If you open this, it gives you information about coding expectations. Every class and interface must be in a separate file, and you should, unless of course it is an inner class for the very specific reason. Usually you will not be creating inner classes, but once in a blue moon you would. So you must be very careful with this. Every class or interface must be in a separate file, and there are requirements regarding documentation. My intention here is not to go through the details of this, but emphasize the importance of documentation and coding standards. My expectations, I mean, saying that I have very clear expectations of how you document things, and okay, so you must document before every class. You must put documentation before every method, before every constructor. Those are easy points, right? Don't unnecessarily lose credit. Identifiers must be words fully expanded. Count, cost of item, gallons pumped, test succeeded. This is Java convention, not something I invented. Okay, this is the recommended conventions official from Oracle. Right? Class names must start with a capital letter. Every succeeding word should be capitalized. Method names must begin with a lowercase letter. Every succeeding word must be capitalized. This is the camel style, all right? Test succeeded and so on. Code should be indented and aligned properly. There must be a space before and after operators. After a comma, you don't put a space before the identifier, and you don't put a space before the, I said comma, no, left parentheses, I'm sorry. After a left parenthesis, you don't put a space. Before the right parenthesis, you don't put a space. And so on and so forth. If, else, while, etc. should all be having a space afterwards. There are only a few places where you can get away without putting full words for identifiers. One is in the main method, public static void main, you can put string array args. You don't have to say arguments or anything of that kind, because that is Java convention. And also for exceptions, you can use the first letters of the various parts of the exception name. Otherwise, you cannot write abbreviations, no matter what. The curly braces should be like this, not like this. This is maybe C or C++, but not in Java. Java is like this. I don't want you cannot use I and J for indexes. You have to write index or some such thing, or position, or something that makes sense. Constructors should be commented, and so are classes and methods. I said this before. And a good part of coding conventions can be easily taken care of by configuring Eclipse. So here is how you would do that. Okay. Then, okay, I think I probably have all that here. Then this gives you an example of documentation. You put /** and then write something to document the class itself. So I have a class called linked set, and I have /*// and it says something about the class, and I put my name here. You should also put your name. Violations of any of this would be cause for deducting points. Okay. Then for every method, you should put comments, not just comments. You should also comment the method. You should also comment the parameters and the return type. Eclipse will prompt you for these things. So it is very easy to do it through Eclipse. Okay. All right. Any questions on coding standards? Okay, let's go back to assignments here, that folder. There are two technical things here. This is the one I said could be somewhat messy for many students the first couple of weeks. So I want to postpone discussion of these two. Okay. And I'm not going to click on these links. I can't bear to listen to myself. Okay. But I will show you some stuff on Eclipse. I mean, give you ideas, not, I'm not going to go through full-fledged demonstrations of things. Give me a minute. Okay. I'm almost ready. Let me go ahead and share my Eclipse window here. What I have here is a pretty old version of Eclipse, maybe 2 years old, or maybe a year old. I don't know. I don't remember exactly. But doesn't matter much. It's the same deal for the most part. Okay, here is my Eclipse window. Some of the things you can do on Eclipse. See, I'm using a Mac, so the menus are slightly different from what you get in Windows. You can configure Eclipse on Mac through this menu item, preferences, which comes under Eclipse. This is on Mac. I think on Windows, it will come under the window menu. Okay. So Eclipse preferences or window preferences, I think on that. And here, I sometimes forget exactly where things are. It may be here. Okay, text editors, or I keep forgetting exactly where things are. I mean, I looked at these before class, but I have forgotten where they were. Colors and fonts, or maybe he. Okay, this you can use to change the colors and fonts, but let me see if I have, or maybe it is under Java that I need to look at. Java editor, maybe. Yeah, Java editor save actions. Okay, you go, I expanded Java, then you can see Java, then I expanded editor, then save actions. And here I have actually said, perform the selected actions on save, format source code. If you look at this when you just after installation, you would probably see it like this. These options are not enabled, but you must go and enable them. It's a great idea because it will format source code.
Not seeing your pop-out window. We're just seeing Eclipse.
Oh, yeah, that is true. I keep forgetting this aspect. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and change my share. Is that, are you able to see anything at all now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, I'm sorry about this. It happens quite often for me. Okay, what I was saying was, I was doing Eclipse preferences, and I expanded the Java part of it. It was like this, I expanded. And if I went into editor and clicked on save actions, I should have these things enabled. If they are not, go ahead and enable them so that this will format all lines. I will show you that in a minute. Then close this. And now suppose I new Java project. Let's say junk. I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. I'm not going to create a module. I will show you these things in more detail later. I'm not going to create a module at this point, but for most projects, you will be creating a module. But my purpose is to show something else at this point. So let me create a class. And let me call it maybe demo. Okay, now supposing I type in like this. Let me make some public void do something. There are lots of problems with this code. Okay, I called. See, okay. First of all, this is not indented. This code is not indented. So I could automatically get this indented because I can get this indented automatically because I have already set the options to format the code. So if I click save, Eclipse indents all of this. Then there are other aspects. One is that I mean, I don't want, I could argue that this is a bad name because this is not a full word. So I can click on that and refactor and click refactor and rename it. So I could change this to something like demonstration class or some such thing. Okay. See, it changed the name of the class on the left side as well as in the code. And you're not allowed to have names like X and Y. So I could refactor, or let me do something here. X equals Y. So I could go and click on X. Suppose you named it badly, you can do something like, suppose I can change the name to, let's say, counter, and it automatically changes X here. And here I can modify Y. Maybe I could have renamed with something else like status. And you must have a proper I don't know why it is spinning like this here. Okay, I should put an access specifier here, private or whatever. Okay, so, and of course I should put comments and stuff like that. All right, it puts my star ID, but there is a way to make it put my name too. I'm not going to, and I want to refactor this. Always use refactor. That is going to be more helpful. Do something. Okay, so those are some of the things you can do through Eclipse, but there is more. You can go to source and you can generate getters and setters. I'm not going to go through all the different ways you can use them. You learn those yourself. Okay, but you can get setters and getters. I think in this course you should use these features. You could generate. Maybe I'll use this way. Source, generate constructors. Okay, so it generated the constructor for me. Those are very convenient. Gets you some code created very quickly. You can also generate hash code and equals, and you can say see, I use blocks. You must have this. You could generate method comments too, I suppose. And I don't know why it did do anything. One thing I don't like about Eclipse here is that it named this OBJ. You must change these to object. Rename. Okay. So it's an easy way of getting some code constructed. You could also generate toString very easily, generate toString, and you can select what fields you want to have and so on. All right, you got a lot of code done very quickly. So those are Eclipse tips. I mean, I find that IntelliJ IDEA does a much better job of with editing than Eclipse, but we use Eclipse in this university, and IntelliJ IDEA is a little more commercial. So unfortunately, we can't really use that. Any questions? All right. If there are no questions, let me show you something that is going to be a bit messy, time-consuming, frustrating, etc., etc. For this to be a pleasant experience rather than a frustrating one, you must do a couple of things. One is ensure that you install a recent version of Java. Much of the difficulties that students face are because of a bad Java installation. So if you have Java 1.8 or before, delete that, completely delete it from your system. Okay, you are better off completely purging that old version of Java. Anything that you use for this course should be Java 11 or later. If you don't do that, you are not going to get anything done properly. It will be a very frustrating semester for you. So simply delete any old version of Java. If you have Java 11 or later, you're fine. That is the first thing. Second thing is you should know where you have installed Java. In Mac, it is a bit of a pain to figure out. In Windows, it is usually C:\program files /Java. If you go through that, you can see the installation. So that is the first thing. I cannot overemphasize this. If you have Java 1.8 or before, you must delete it from your laptop or your desktop or wherever you have that. You must install Java 11 or later. If you don't have any of this, go to the latest release, go to the Oracle, get the latest release, install it. Install Eclipse. Please delete the old version of Java that you have. I have only one version of Java, unless you know exactly what you are doing. Have exactly one Java installation, no multiple JREs, just one JDK installation. Get rid of everything else regarding Java. Okay, that is the first thing. After that, to create a new project, go like this. I'm going to get rid of this junk project from here. Delete. Okay. This is how you would create a project for almost anything in this course. It is going to be, I suspect it is going to be different from what you see or what you have done in other classes. So pay attention. There are lots of details, and I am using a Mac, so things may appear slightly different in Windows, but there is already a document available on the D12 site for both Mac and Windows. So you shouldn't have too much trouble doing it on Windows. So to create a new project, start like this. Click File and click New and click Java Project. Then let's give it a name. Let me call it class example. And I'm not going to click finish here. Instead, I'm going to click next. And I get this dialog box. And what I'm going to do first is right click this SRC and remove it from build path. I'm going to put all my source files in a separately named or a very specifically named folder. So create new source folder. And here I'm going to give a folder name that is somewhat like a domain name. I mean, like a URL or some such thing. So I'm going to write something like edu.ics372.example1. Normally, it would be, I mean, when you look at organizations or URLs, it would be like example1.ics372.edu. So this is the reverse of that, reverse domain address, all right? edu.ics372.example1 and click finish. So all my source files would be in this folder or subfolders of that. Actually, it would be in this folder. I take back what I'm saying. It would be in this folder. All right. And then I will do the same thing here for the class files. They would be in class example /bin/ exactly the same thing as before, edu.ics372.example1.
I have a question.
Yes.
So for the project one, for example, what would we call that folder?
You can call the folder, you mean, or this one? Okay, the source folder. You can call it things like edu.ics372.assignment1 or project1 or P1.
Anything?
Sorry?
Oh, so we won't lose points for the naming of that folder.
No. You don't have to call it. You don't have to use full words or anything of that kind. No. Okay, no. But it has to be consistent with what we are doing here. You can't just call it X or Y. Okay, it has to be a reverse domain name. Okay, and then click finish. And make sure that you have this create module info.java file. Finish. All right. And now you have to give a module name. The module name should also be the same thing, whatever you used before. edu.ics372. What did I use before? Example1. Okay, now we are not going to do anything with the module file this week. We will see more of it in the coming days. Okay, we don't want to deal with everything in one stroke. Right. Here is my project class example. Can you see that? It's very tiny. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Thank you. Now, this is where I'm going to have all my source files. So I'm going to create a package. You must always create a package. Right click, new package. The package also has the same name, edu.ics372.example1. So I got the package done. I got that package in this source folder. I may create sub packages, and you will do that for some projects, for the group projects especially, all right? But not today, not probably for the first couple of assignments, maybe a little late, or maybe in the second assignment, I don't know. Now I can create a class file. Now this is very much like what we have done before. So let me say, maybe call it main class or something. It doesn't matter much. And as I said before, this is one place I don't ask you to put full names. And let me say system.out.println. I'm not going to put any comments or anything to save time. And I save this. And I just want to check that this is going to run. And what is going on here? All right, I can run it like this. And it worked, okay. That is 50% of the work, right? For this to succeed, you need to have only one, ideally, you should have only one installation of Java, one JRE, one JDK, that's it. If you have multiple things, you might run into grief. I have had many students get frustrated, and ultimately when they deleted all the other versions of Java, JDK, everything became fine. You shouldn't have any old versions. You should have Java 11 or later, and only one instance of the JDK. Just have one. That will make things a lot cleaner. All right. Now, what we are going to do is something, again, that's something that you probably haven't seen before. So please pay attention, as always. We are going to create not just class files. We already have created that. It should be under it should be already created by Java, wherever it creates it. It should be under bin / whatever. I'm not seeing it here. I don't know why. In any case, it is already there. All right. What I am going to create is an executable, something that you can execute from the command line. Okay. So for that, it's a little easier in Windows, I think, in my opinion. Mac is a little more of a pain. So I'm going to just go to this file here, because I don't remember everything off the top of my head. So I'm going to just go here and look at what I need to do. Honestly, I don't remember all the little details. Okay, what you need to create is a file, very simple file actually. This is the file that I need. This is the content of the file that I need to create. So I'm going to use some tool. You could use Notepad++ or Notepad on Windows. I don't have anything great on Mac. There is a text edit, which I will use, I think. I'm looking for text edit here. I keep forgetting where those things are. Let me see. I find this very inadequate. I mean, some of the stuff that I have here. Where the heck is it? Let me see if it is here. Oh, yeah, here it is. All right, so you cannot use Word or some such things, okay? You have to use a proper text editor, not a word processor. So I'm going to try and copy this. Hopefully it will work. Right. I'm going to copy this and paste it here. Okay, I need to have all of this in a single line. Because of Word, I am seeing this in two different lines, but that is not how it should be. It should all be a single command. Okay, so slash, this is where a program called JLink resides on my Mac. And I need to put the name of the folder where I had my bin files, and that I think was example1, not C1. And add modules, I think I had example1. And here, I'm going to change the CE1 to example1. So what does this command do? This command essentially runs, or this line essentially runs this program called JLink, which is part of the Java installation. And it creates a folder called example1. You can see this minus minus output. That is an option to create a folder called example1. So JLink is executed. It creates example1. What is going to be in example1? Example1 is going to be a folder that contains a number of files. And one of the files is the Java virtual machine itself. And that in example1, you will have the Java virtual machine tailored for this particular program that we created. This is example1. Of course, it had just one class. It was a toy program anyway. But still, there is a separate virtual machine that would run that particular class. And we are saying that this class has this module, right? So this module would be added to the program. So hopefully this will work. So I'm going to save this. And I should save it in my, to be honest, it can be saved anywhere. But what I would suggest is that you save it in the folder for this particular project. So you need to go to the folder that contains the project we just created. Where is that going to be? We need to figure that out. Where is that folder? All right. I forget to get that. Actually, that folder is here. It is under, I'll show you where it is. Only you would know. I mean, don't ask me when you create things where your folder is. And here I know where it is. Where is that? It is going to be under documents, under classes, ICS 372, fall 2021. I'm trying to minimize the number of copies of things. That's why I don't have this under fall 2022. Anyway, that's an aside. All right. Where is my class? I think it was class example, right? And I will save it here. Okay. I mean, in the middle of this, don't ask me where your project is. You have to keep track of where your projects are, all right? And I am going to call this, I can call it almost anything I want. I'm going to call it create. And I am going to, oh my goodness, I can't. I don't want it to be. Let me see if I can find another editor. I don't know what to do with this. Because I don't want that silly extension there if I can help it. Does anyone know of any other editor here? Let me see if I can use the Python editor. Maybe that will come to my help. Okay, let me see if I can use this one. Okay, let me see if this will save it. Save as. Anyway, I don't mind having the .py extension. So documents, classes, ICS 372, fall 2021. And then I'm going to put it under class example. And I'm going to call it as create or some such thing. It doesn't matter too much. Create. Okay, let me see what it would do. Okay, it called it create.py. That's fine. I'm not too worried about it. And I'm going to have to start the terminal window on Mac, or if I am on Windows, I will start the command prompt. And let me see where I am here. CD classes slash CD class example, I think. All right, let me see here. Okay, I have this create.py here. Can you see that? There is this little file, create.py. I run it like this, shell create.py. Oops, I have a problem. J-link. Unknown option. I shouldn't have had that problem. Oh, maybe it is because of this. Let me try again. edu.ics372.example1 not found. Module not found. Okay, let me see what the module name was. edu.ics, it was that. So let me try one thing here. This might help. Edu. Hmm. It's surprising. bin/edu.ics302.example1 is a directory. That is, it is supposed to be a directory. So I don't know why it is complaining about that. Because it normally works. Anyway, I don't know why it is coming that way. We are running a little short of time, so I would probably close this. It should have worked. That's all I can say. I will try to sort this out at a later point. Okay, why it is complaining about this, I don't know. Okay. What we will do is I will take attendance and then we will begin the class exercise, and then I will try to sort this out if I get enough time. I don't want to waste too much time here. And if you are having trouble, we will try to work on it at that point. I just did I just redid the Windows part before class, and the one that I have there should work. Okay, but I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. Why it is complaining about this part. Okay.